Right, time for more exploring. Much as I appreciate the missile expansions from last time, let's see if we can get something more meaningful now. Of course, it would be easier to pull that off if the map made things a bit more detailed in a way to say there are items you can grab here, but we're not going to say if you have the right tools to grab them. It's kind of funny how I was vaguely insulted in Dread for them pulling that sort of thing, but now I wished things worked like that here. Ah well, what can you do other than just work with what you have at the time? Probably says something that I'm starting to get into a mindset where I don't want to bother with some enemies and just get a move on. It's not that that's a bad thing, even in this context. Just that I somehow would have preferred my instinct to take pretty much any enemy we come across down was nullified by the game throwing in some challenging aspects that made that sort of thing feel dangerous. Instead, I'm just going, that fight would be just plain too damn long for what it's worth, and I'd rather get moving. Seriously, this is a bad kind of game to start feeling that kind of impatience. Not when there's quite a few hours left for us to do at this point. And now I can't help wondering why this game doesn't let us jump without having to set bombs in Morph Ball mode. Again, it's not a major thing, just something that catches my attention occasionally. Right, going up an elevator for the sake of getting to yet another elevator on the other side. We have just been running across ground we've already explored for quite a bit, and I don't imagine that's gonna stop anytime soon unless I get lucky. Anyone else find it strange that it's easier to feel like this game is smaller scale than the 2D games on average? When the 2D games do not have environments quite this vast to work with, and we could probably be near the end of the game by this point for them. It's just one of those impressions I get since it's easier for me to outright say, based on the visuals, we've been here before. And the overall amount of time we go through the game is longer than the 2D entries to such a degree that it all kind of blurs together. But then the 2D games kind of blur together to me for some reason. I really need to deal with that blurriness in my memory. Especially since I'm in such a hurry to make progress right now that I'm letting myself get attacked by even the easier enemies in the game. Definitely not at my best right now. And I definitely took a wrong turn somewhere. Bloody hell, I need to calm down. We are not on any kind of time limit. I can do this at a relaxed, methodical pace. I can't let the lack of progress last time mess with me right now. Right. Just need to go left for now. Okay, at the very least, that spider track up there is promising. And another missile expansion. Not terrible, but again, I'd prefer something with more meat to the progress at the moment. Still, there's no denying that this is indeed a little promising. Right, too much to ask that I could make a jump that wide. As morph ball tunnels go, this is rather long to be this wide. but maybe I'm just far too used to seeing Samus go through some rather narrow holes. Okay, was kind of expecting to see some creatures in this hallway, but I suppose that's nothing to be disappointed about. Definitely seems like a rather extensive room, even if it doesn't have any other doors in or out of it. Let's just see what this has to offer us. Okay, getting into those morph ball slots is going to be a bit trickier than usual. Huh. Nothing dramatically falling down after we blasted that bit of pillar. Maybe we need to destroy all those pillars before we get whatever reward is waiting for us in here. Kinda wish I knew why everything else bounces off those things when they don't look all that different from the other bits of stone that absorb our shots, like all the regular terrain in the game. Okay, I was right that that would trigger something. And apparently, those annoying creatures just do not take damage from our beams. Well, at least that bastard didn't actually manage to block our shots. That's a mercy. And I'm certainly pleased we have more than enough ammo to keep working on this puzzle. Right, so no cutscene for it happening a second time in the same room. I can appreciate that. Okay, so we've got a new version of the floating gas bags. Right, so those ones are only vulnerable to missiles. And of course, since I shot at them for the sake of grabbing some more missiles, they gave us health energy we don't need. My luck certainly seems to be holding out for now. Right, what upgrade is this supposed to be? So it's essentially super missiles for a different style of beam. I'm sorry, but how is this supposed to be useful to us? Especially in the current situation? Right, and of course we can't reach the next door near without the gravity suit, so once again, it's back to the drawing board. Definitely not going to be able to get to that unexplored ground nearby without the grapple beam. That door needs the ice beam. And we are still stuck trying to figure out what to do next. Ugh. Guess we have even more fast-forwarding to do in our near future. Granted, there's also a lot of fast-forwarding to do in our far future, but still, I was kind of hoping that business would be picking up soon. Instead, we have to keep working through this rather dry spell. May as well take this guy down to deal with my annoyance at the moment. I probably shouldn't feel too annoyed, considering we gained an upgrade that was a bit more meaningful than how many missiles we carry at a time, but still, I can't help it when I was hoping that unexplored room would lead us to something major like the gravity suit, grapple beam, or ice beam. I wouldn't have minded the plasma beam either, considering we know there's a door in one of the rooms we can go to that is locked by that. Just something to give me the confidence to head forward without constantly going, is this actually going to open any doors for us? Or lead us to reach other doors? Right, may as well save, and with our current run of luck, I'm sure I can fit in another bit of raw footage into this clip. Right, doubt there's anything we haven't already grabbed that way, but then if I knew where we could go for something genuinely fresh, then I wouldn't be feeling so annoyed right now. Well, we can finally grab whatever's up there, that's something. Okay, was somehow expecting the only barrier to be us jumping this high up. Not that the gate is all that much of an issue, I just find it oddly funny that the only way to scan it is if we're not directly next to it. Though I probably could have just guessed what to break the gate with. It's not like we have to worry about wasting missiles or bombs at this point. Well, I suppose exploring this spider track is worth slowing down for, though maybe I'm just being a bit too hopeful. Huh. Blocks that disappear from under us if we're on them for too long. I suppose that's this game's answer for the blocks that break under Samus's weight in the 2D games. Again, I would not question it if it was a 2D game here. Anyway, is there anything up here other than the door that we can't open just yet? Okay, there's some lore on the wall. I suppose that's something. We've also got some odd creatures on the spider track on the ceiling. Right, so the only way to damage them is bombs. Because of course it would have made things too simple if we were able to kill them from down here. At least the only other bombs-only recurring enemies we've had to see have tried to eat us. Those things would probably just, lightly slap against us and we'd go flying right off the ceiling. So when they were trying to save this world, and when they were making the lock with far too many keys, they were already dead, which means that a good amount of the writing on the walls was written post-mortem. I've seen plenty of apocalyptic logs over the years, and I've got to admit I have never seen one where the writers were dead before they even put the first letter down. Well, our plan is to eventually invade that temple, so why the hell did you have to make it quite so troublesome to unlock it? Granted, that gives us time to be prepared, and as possibly prepared as possible before we deal with the final boss, but still, I am not a fan of just that many keys for just one door. Okay, this entire area certainly wasn't on the map. I definitely appreciate that there's plenty more unexplored ground for us to go through right now. Okay, so we're going to have to do a good deal of speed boosting in here, that's for sure. Wonder why we can't scan the metal emblem thing in here. We've generally been able to scan just about everything else we come across. That was quite a lot of height we could gain with the boost there. Well, it's kind of understandable that you have a hard time keeping track of time in the afterlife. Oh, she's become a hyper-capable warrior who has an annoying tendency to have to gather the exact same upgrades over and over again. Well, she certainly still lives and will continue to live for a good long time after this adventure, but I don't have anything definitive for any of your other questions because, well, this isn't really the kind of series that would let us learn those sort of things about our heroine. Well, to be fair, if it wasn't for our scanner, I certainly wouldn't know what those keys were or how to use them. Samus kind of has an unfair advantage against the pirates here, but then she always does. All because of the suit. Can you really call it your doom if you were already dead when they arrived? Again, it's not that the Chozo lores path, just that it doesn't feel as easy for me to get really into as the pirate lore does. So they mean to tell me the final boss is going to be a massive worm of some kind, or am I taking its name a bit too literally? Unfortunately, she is. And again, I'm not a fan of prophecies. Is that all for the lore in this room? Granted, I like all the lore, but I kinda need to get a move on. And possibly fast forward for about another several minutes, just to... or maybe just look ahead and try to find a spot to split this bit of raw footage up, or we're gonna have more than half an hour of footage for this clip. Granted, YouTube itself doesn't give me that kind of length limit, but still, I like keeping things below that length, partly to make it easier to watch, and partly to make it easier to make. Okay, apparently I had second thoughts and decided to stay in this room a little longer. Well, this is certainly a time-consuming puzzle. The question is, will it consume enough time for me to avoid having to cut some footage for a while? Well, that missile upgrade is nice, but that felt a little convoluted for just that. Right! All that was indeed just for the sake of getting a missile expansion. Looks like there's gonna be plenty more new in this clip than I expected. so I'm going to have to end it abruptly in a bit. Sorry in advance, but hey, it's certainly better to have to do an awkward cut than to go through a clip where nothing actually happens in it. Oh dear, we've seen that kind of floating white ball before. Well, it's gonna be hard to give the statue an offering when there's a hostile ghost in here. At least this damage sponge feels like a good excuse to start fast-forwarding right now. Okay, to nobody's surprise, apparently taking one of them on alone is a lot easier than 3 at the same time. Little annoying to land on a statue in the 3D games compared to the 2D ones. Probably the reason why it's so much more rare in this game compared to the other Metroids we've gone through so far. Okay, so we've got 3 more bomb slots that are color-coded. Color codes for the different kinds of beam, 2 of which we don't have just yet. Here's hoping I remember to come back to this room when I do, but again, it's not like this game does anything in the map to help jog your memory, and I would say the game needs a lot more memory jogging as it can manage here, because, well, I'm the one who's playing it. Well, of course she doesn't give a damn about the threats around her here. This kind of thing is kind of standard fare for her. Granted, this game takes place before many of her other adventures, but still, the game was designed specifically to evoke the same feelings as the 2D games. While it does a lot to expand the Metroid franchise in terms of the various bits of lore, it doesn't really do anything to innovate outside of just putting the Metroid experience in an extra dimension. And to be fair, as the first to ever try to go 3D, it's hard to hold it against this game. There's a reason people consider this to be the best Metroid Prime experience of the trilogy, though I can't help hoping that when Metroid Prime 4 releases, I'm gonna feel it's as good, if not better, than what I experienced with this game. While outdoing this game in terms of storytelling probably isn't gonna be all that tough, in terms of gameplay and atmosphere, that might be a bit more of an order there. Hell, Metroid Prime 2 and 3 were more action-focused in several ways, and I seem to recall plenty of people comparing Prime 3 unfavorably with Halo. Okay, that's certainly not a save point, even if it has a similar glow. Huh. Not really sure why we need missile stations, considering missiles aren't quite as necessary as they were in the 2D games. Also, don't really see why we need a panning cutscene bit for this, when there are fewer visual details in this than when we save or go to a map station. It feels more like they just threw the missile station into this game for the sheer sake of including something else from the 2D part of the series. Again, I can understand why to a degree, but considering how this game generally goes, I think they could have gone without the missile station, just like they could have done without forcing us to find quite so many keys for the final door. A new path that we need to get onto that statue again to go through. And now it's reset to the previous configuration again. I'm hoping that I remember to come back here when we have the right gear.